Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I think that's how you
Dinniman?
say it. Dinniman.
You did not say
Not
the D.
minimum.
Dinniman. Dinniman.
Matt I keep wanting to say denim, but it's just Dinniman. Anyways, for more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. I'm your co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Mariah on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at KRXXTXN on all social media platforms. So, this is a little bit more of a spur of a moment episode 2 for us. It's not going to be a typical episodes. Think of it more as like a mini series we're going to be doing leading up to Dungeon Crawler Carl number 8 coming out later this year. And me and Mariah are going to be working on this throughout the year as we finish reading the books. Because as of right now, we've only finished the first one. We're both about halfway through the second one. So as we finish each book, we'll probably do like an episode and upload it as that happens. Basically.
This is kind of us testing the water. We did this a little bit with the Hunger Games, where we were testing, posting once a week. So this is an alternative. Also, this book kind of took us by surprise. We didn't intend. This is unplanned. My heart has been stolen. So
because
we're going to talk about it.
Well, because we've heard about this book. It's pretty popular on Book Talk. I would say, like, a lot more in, like, not, like, typical book talk, like, mainstream book talk. I'd say a lot more of, like, the people that are into subgenre of, like, fantasy science fiction sort of realm of this. And me and Mariah heard about this, I think, last year or something. And we were like, oh, like, we were told that the politics are actually pretty good, surprisingly, for this sort of thing. And so Mariah started it one night, and I was like, what the fuck? I thought we were going to do an episode on this. And you're like, well, I started reading it. So I was like, okay, I guess I got to start reading it. Because I bought the physical book like a billion years ago, too. Because I just love the hardcover so much.
I just needed a junk read. I needed like a good, hearty junk read. It was kind of on the longer side. I was like, whatever. I just want to see what all the hype is about. And then I was reading it, and it was 2 a.m. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. And I just committed. I don't know what it was about this, but I saw potential. I saw something that I feel like other people are seeing, because apparently the Republicans are also consuming this book and not consuming it critically.
Or correctly.
Which is cause for concern, because I don't want this to be another Hunger Games situation. I do think the themes in this are a lot more overt, which is what is also confusing me, because it's like, this is pretty fucking in your face. Like,
well, it
that's
kind
what
of
we're gonna
reminds
do.
me. Did you see the White House tweet earlier this week? So whenever me and Mariah are recording this, May the 4th was the other day. And for those of you that don't know, May the 4th is like Star Wars Day celebration. It sounds like May the 4th. But the White House, did you see the tweet where they were basically saying, like, oh, everybody on the left and radicals like that, you guys are the empire and we're the rebellion. And then they posted an AI photo of Donald Trump with a red lightsaber. So.
Wait, so
there. So it kind of reminds me of how Republicans consume Star Wars, very clearly, like, critique on fascist and tyranny and things like that, which especially I've been watching Andor lately, and they literally have Karl Marx in Andor in the first half of the first season.
I have heard the politics of that show are really good. So
They are.
But that's a much more serious show, right?
Yes.
Whereas this, I had heard it was silly, goofy. It was not serious, and it did live up to that. If you don't know what Dungeon Crawler Carl is about, it's like a video game, like light RPG, I think is what it's considered.
Lit RPG, like, because it's literature.
LIT, yeah.
Yeah.
No, like the game, right?
No, RPG is just RPG, like a role-playing game.
No, but there's like a light, like
Lit for literature. Like, so this is like an RPG, but a book.
No, I'm talking about light RPG, rules light RPG, role-playing game with simplified rules mechanics compared to more complex systems like Dungeons and Dragons.
Well,
I'm talking about
yes.
like light RPG.
But
not
this
a
is
literary,
also
but
like a
it's a
literary.
book.
Yes,
So okay.
yes, because it is a book and it very much like takes like a lot of the creatures and things like that are popular within if you play like D&D or Baldur's Gate, if you're more into the video game realm of stuff. Then this is basically, I think anybody who plays like any video game, you would eat this up. I'm what you
I
might
feel
call a
like
gamer.
widowy a gamer.
I'm worse. I'm a
I
gamer. Do you know that audio?
I think
Yes.
this is one of those books you have to go into as blind as possible, which is something it sometimes it works out really well. This at this point I had zero expectations. I thought I was gonna hate it. So I didn't look up really anything about it. I just knew it was a
I
dungeon
heard nothing
game
but good
with a
things,
cat.
so.
I saw the cover of it and people loved it. But also, you know what people love is Gideon the Ninth. And I thought this was going to be another Gideon the Ninth, which I have tried to read like 2 or 3 times and I cannot get into it because I don't like the dialogue. So that's what I went to. But then I got into this and I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it worked. So if you're somebody that's in the same situation as me, perhaps you will like it.
Basically, you just follow a dude named Carl that Earth gets taken over by like a corporation of aliens that tell him basically, hey, the only way you can survive and like possibly like live a good life is basically compete in a reality show that is like a dungeon that's under like deep into the earth and basically get to a certain level of the floor and then you'll have free reign over your planet again and you'll get to live your best life is all he's pretty much told. And that's all you really need to know, I think, if you're reading this.
I know we're walking a really like fine line where we don't want to say too much at this point. But we
No,
are going to talk about more serious stuff. But there really isn't a whole lot else. I do think that this is probably one of those things you should read before the TV show that is coming out, which
yes.
is set to come out. Was another reason why we wanted to get on top of this so we could get them all read, reviewed, uploaded before the TV show coming out by
Seth
directed by and
MacFarlane.
written by Seth MacFarlane.
I don't know if he's
So
doing any of that. I know his company that like produces stuff or whatever has the rights to the books for a TV show adaptation.
So it's not ironed out. I haven't looked a whole lot into this. That was another reason that we ended up like that encouraged me, I suppose, to watch it or read it.
It's
Not watch
basically
it.
watching it. It's like a movie. It's like this is
It
one of the
really does
most
play like a movie in
cinematic.
your head.
This is one of the most cinematic books. And like I know some people can complain about that, I think, for certain books and stuff like that where it's like if it feels like it's trying too hard to be like a TV show or a movie or something, but I feel like for this it works really well. And what I've been doing, so first I started listening to this book, just the audiobook, and those that are regular listeners, I don't do audiobooks, but the audiobook for this, I would say, even if you don't like audiobooks, listen to the audiobook. Because what I've been doing now actually is listening to the audiobook while like physically reading it. And it's like I'm locked in at all times, my whole life. I'm in the dungeon with Carl and Princess Donut.
I know we're not super into the ratings or whatever just yet, but the audiobook, the last time I checked, had a 4.9 star rating with 33,000 ratings for an
4.9.
audiobook on
Point
Audible
nine.
because it's Audible
Yeah.
exclusive.
That's crazy. The voice acting is so good. It's like almost full cast because like the point of view is Carl's. So Carl is doing most of the voice acting for it, but like Princess Donut has her own voice actor and then there's other characters that I won't say too much about. They do have voice acting as well, so there's different voices. So I imagine if you are somebody that does other stuff while you're listening to the audiobook, this could be a good one where it's easy to follow along with, even if you're not someone that's typically used to audiobooks. And you're not getting like the silly voices if you're not into that. But I actually recommend the dual reading. Like with I've been doing the audiobook and the physical reading. It's chef's kiss. Okay. But I guess we can talk about our personal ratings and the ratings overall because on Goodreads, out of 84,000 ratings, it's at 4.51 stars just for the first book. I know later on they get higher ratings too. The better, like the more books in, which makes sense because the people that continue the series are only going to be people that like the first book, you know?
Yeah, but still having a 4.51 rating
For your first
is
book
kind of
is
crazy. It's one of the highest rated books that we've done. I think the last highest rated book was Sunrise on Reaping.
probably, yeah. And I personally give it 4.75 stars. I think I didn't want to give it 5 stars because I can tell it's going to be like, at least from where I'm at, I view it as like a 5-star series, but I feel like the book wasn't a 5-star book, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes any sense. But
Kristen has a very strict rubric for rating. I just gave it a straight up 5 star, which I was not. I think it's because I set my um
standards,
but the bar was low. The bar was really low. I had zero expectations going into it because I didn't think I was gonna like it. And
and
it
boy
really exceeded
howdy.
my expectation, mainly like the politics, and I liked Carl's characterization and how it's building. The world building is really interesting. It's super funny. Like there's times where I'm giggling and
I'm
I
laughing out
am
loud
somebody.
reading it.
It's so funny and goofy and I'm just having a good fun time. It makes me
Yeah.
feel like I'm discovering reading for the first time.
It's so good. I feel so bad because like I've been reading other books like while we've been doing this and like except for the podcast and I'm just like everything I'm comparing to Carl and like I don't want to read anything else. I just want to read Carl. I don't
I think about Carl and Donut at breakfast. I
yeah.
think about Carl at lunch. I don't want to pick up anything else.
No, literally. I just want to read Carl. That's all I want. I just want to spend time in the dungeon. And I had to like force myself to finish other books before I can reward myself with the delectable sweet treat of Carl number 2.
I mean, okay, so I looked at the rating demographic and I put it, you aren't going to be able to see it, but Chris and I can see it. 5 star ratings for this book, 62% of all
That's
of those ratings.
crazy.
It's really high. 4 stars, the next highest, 29%. So then the last 8% is spread among the 3, 2, and 1 star. And the 1 star is less than 1% of the ratings. So I, as I usually do, go and read through those because there's very interesting seeing what people have to say. I don't like to pick reviews to talk about on here that haven't been from people who have DNF'd. I give it to the people
Who
that have worked
finished.
through it all. But even though these people are finishing it all, I'm very confused because one person called mildly literate accurate says I feel like the author hates women. If I could give this 0 stars, I would. And then tomatoes emojis.
Which what we're not really in the spoiler zone yet, which I guess I could see people critiquing this like because I saw people online too originally saying that like Dungeon Crawl Carl has like edge lord humor sort of thing, which like I can see how like because like right wing grifters co-opt anything on the left and stuff like that, and like that's what I think the problem with this is that the people that lack like media literacy and don't understand that when something is a critique of certain things, I guess, then they're not gonna
Which
fully comprehend it.
we'll get into like some of this in a little bit, but I just want to bring up some of them because we're teetering. We're in the gray zone, right?
Yeah.
Somebody named Christopher said, if I could give this book negative stars, I would, but I rated this about 0.25 stars. This is supposed to be satirical and funny. I found it to be neither. I found the characters to be lacking of any depth. I also found this writing and character depiction to be hugely misogynistic, sexist, and slightly racist. Um, they did end up finishing the book, so I don't think they're gonna finish the series, but this is one of the DNR lists that they're adding. Which again, we'll talk about some of the character tropes that are, and it's not even a trope; it's just characters
Yeah.
that are in this.
I don't think it's a very tropey book at all. Like unless like
No,
it's like
it's
tropey in
hard
the
to
way
like.
that like it's like a video game story. You know what I'm saying? And it's still like I don't know. It's also very unique. Like I've never read anything like this. I don't know if you have. Probably not. But no offense. Like I know what you read. But like this book has just such a unique premise and like my boyfriend's reading it too and he loves it. He's so excited to start the second book, but he had to finish Murder Bots first. And so like this is something like we are both like he's very much a big gamer. I'm a big gamer. Like I think if you're in like gaming culture or you like gaming, this is a great book. Like I'm literally recommending it to all of my friends that don't read because I'm like if you don't read and you like video games, you will like this. Like I think that's like it's a blanket statement for that.
Um,
We have to talk about Matt too himself.
what about Matt?
We haven't talked about him at all.
Oh, I didn't see a whole lot, and I also didn't really get into his politics, as I remember looking it up, as soon as I finished the first book, and I didn't see anything, so if there's been a interview of Matt Dinniman online, I haven't watched through all of them or read them. I was worried about spoilers for the other books, so I've been trying to, like,
Yeah,
I'm in a weird spot where I don't wanna completely spoil anything, but I can't flush out his politics or controversies. I didn't see much. He's published quite a few books. There's, like, a couple other series that he's written, Dominion of Blades and Shivered Sky. I haven't read either of them or heard anything about them, but these ones, I have no idea what it was that
popped
caught
off.
on about them.
They're pretty new too. They came out in 2020 is whenever it started. And he was like busting them out because why is he already on book 8 and we're only on 2025? 8 books in
Yeah,
5 years is kind of crazy.
September 21st of 2020 is when this one came out.
Yeah. And then the fifth one or the eighth one is coming out in November of this year, according to Goodreads. But I mean, I'm assuming from what other people that have said online, because Sydney, I don't know what Sydney says. Is that her at?
Sounds right.
Um, well, because they were talking about it and they said that Matt Dinniman is an anarchist or something of that nature, which I don't know if it's like a mark of uh like an anarcho-communist or like what specifically he falls down. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, like it could be like an analysis of the character from reading it further. I don't know. I haven't asked Sydney. Maybe we
I
can
know
invite Sydney at some point.
one of the
Get
books
some more
is
perspective.
one of the books is called The Anarchist Cookbook. I think the third one.
We'll find out though, huh?
But that's all I
When we get
know.
there.
So, but I don't know. Is there anything you want to say before we go into spoilers then?
Think so.
Because I feel like anything else we want to say, it's going to be specifically spoilers. And you're hearing this live and now. Mariah and I are telling you to read this book. If you read one book this year and it's not nonfiction, it should be Dungeon Crawler Carl, I think.
It's quite fun. I don't think there's anything like that people wouldn't take away from it. I can't think of anyone unless you went into it expecting it to be serious, which
No,
that
it's
is not something
which
you should
like
do.
it's silly, goofy fun, but then you can also have like serious ideals come out of it. Yes. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the cover. Not the one back there
Mine's
necessarily, but the
boring, I
initial
guess.
cover is very
But
crazy
I
over the
mean,
top.
he doesn't have his shoes on and he's got only his boxers on, which
And he's got a cat,
and
so
he's got Princess Donut with him, and that's what matters. I was too spoiler alert for the second one. I was tearing up at one of the scenes. We could talk about it off camera, but one of the scenes in the second book, I was like, you know what I'm
crying
saying?
over Dungeon Crawler Carl.
It's just
Um,
heartwarming. Anyways, moving on
what
to
do I
the
have to
spoiler zone.
say? So I went through some of the I made highlights as I was going along for things that I found quite interesting. I will say when I was earlier on in the book, one of the first neighborhood bosses that Carl comes across is a woman who I think we're under the impression is from like a Latin American country. I don't think it's completely decided that it is Mexico, but she is
I
called the
don't.
Hoarder,
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
she's got like one of the creatures is like cockroaches, and she's like this huge woman,
Like a
and it's like
trash
this.
woman sort of vibe.
And when you're first reading that, I remember I was like, okay, I don't know about this. You have to keep pushing through it though, because I definitely can see like that does feel very racist. However, like when she's talking, if you're not also looking up like what she says in Spanish, or you don't know what she's saying in Spanish, there she doesn't know like
What's going
what's
on?
going on. And you're learning that the way that this game is being structured is that the bosses are characters of like
Society.
humans.
Yeah, our society
Specific,
specifically.
yeah, of society, but like there's elements that are being added in from the syndicate, which is like the ruling government, and then the boring company is the one that's running this game.
This season
Um,
of Dungeon Crawl
yeah,
Dungeon
because they'll
Crawler.
run like different seasons,
Yeah.
but they're doing this to like manufacture consent. Like that's essentially what they're doing is they are like demonizing these humans and like showing like the most ghastly. We also aren't seeing exactly what's being put on the news, but from the little clips and whatnot we're seeing from their form of entertainment, it reads very much like um what you would see in like US news. I mean, we look at what capitalism and how it like promotes different products and like hypersexualization of like Carl's Jr. burgers or other random things like these
The
caricatures
Wendy's
of
girl.
different people like the Aunt Jemima
Mhm.
syrup, right? Like we have all of these things that have existed in society. So like that is what is being exemplified in this game. So I don't think it's Matt Dinniman's I don't think he's being racist necessarily by just
No.
depicting it this way, but he's showing that, like, there's this, like, fash
Government.
government, and they want things to be put into a certain lens so that everyone is supporting the, like, cleansing of these planets that they're going to for resources and entertainment. Because that's, like, ultimately what they're doing, like, they're getting, like, a dual property of this, like, gaming system. I think that's important context to have while reading this because later on you get, like, um, what is it called? The Craw Karen? It's, like,
Yeah,
supposed to be
the
like a
Karen.
kraken, and, like, they have, like, the little A-line haircuts, and they're, like, in
Bob.
MLMs or whatever,
Yeah. Well,
and
because
it's they're selling herbal supplements, so, like, it becomes more apparent later on. However, so if anyone is getting to that point, or maybe you're listening right now, I don't know where you're at, push through it. I do think there is something of value here
well,
to be
yes,
discussed.
I think even like when that part two, because even like Carl like specifically mentions, I remember at one point too, he's talking. I don't know if it's to Mordecai specifically or if it's to Princess Donut, but he talks about how they brought the worst out of like human society to use for this dungeon and stuff like that. Because then Princess Donut, who has like a very narrow mindset, because she doesn't know anything. She was a cat, like a regular old cat beforehand. The only thing she knew was like pageant shows and stuff like that. And even she was like, wow, I didn't realize like you humans suck so bad, sort of thing. And Carl's like, we don't. Like, this is like a manufactured thing to make us look worse than what they are. Like, he explicitly has that conversation. I remember. So,
Yeah, I think I have it highlighted, because they were talking about, like, the shots, because they were showing exactly kinda like in the Hunger Games,
yeah,
the shots that are being showed of, like, the district, but in this is, like, shots of Earth, focusing mostly on the urban areas. It quickly became clear that the show was cherry-picking the shittier parts of the planet, showing shanty towns and garbage dumps, bubbling pits of mud and abandoned buildings. They were throwing in scenes from disaster films. I recognized a shot from the latest Godzilla movie. They were going out of their way to make Earth look like a nightmare. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, that is manufacturing consent.
yeah,
Which, as a reader, you should reflect back on this. This is what you should be doing, but people apparently are not
don't,
doing.
yeah.
um, and be like, oh wow, like see the connections around me in the world.
Which is like
They
what,
colonized the
yeah,
planet,
yeah.
and now they're depicting this and showing like, oh, actually,
We're
see, it's
saving the
fine.
planet.
We're the do-gooders.
We're saving them from their own self-destruction sort of ideals. What's really interesting to me too, though, which we haven't gotten a lot about, like the history of it too, because the ideas that have been planted there that they've been like they've been planning to take over this planet for hundreds of thousands of years too, because like I remember there's like Mordecai saying that they've been on the planet for hundreds of years before, like slowly pushing society ahead so that they could end up extracting it for its resources, basically. The planet and the people for entertainment value.
Yeah,
Because
and
they're
I'm hoping later in the books we'll get more. But so far I'm making sure I'm keeping everything compartmentalized because we're also in the second book, so I'm trying to
yeah,
make sure everything's like
we don't talk
locked
about
in.
the second book at all. That's why I had to stop reading it today because I was like, I don't want to blur the lines too much with this because I feel like the way that this first book is done though, it's done so well, which it's one of those books that I can really appreciate it because like sometimes I feel like if some books have like are just action, 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 then you never get strong characters. But this does such a good job at balancing like making Princess Donut and Carl, like characters that you very much care about, and even Mordecai to an extent, and like some of the other characters that you end up later meeting, that they're like characters that you really much care for and you want what's best for them, especially whenever you meet like Brandon and I don't remember the other names, but like the people with the old people and stuff like that, that you feel for those old people because they were almost forced down there out of their will because
Yeah, and I think about that too, 'cause, like, a random fire alarm goes off, and you're like, "Oh, I work in, like, an aging community, people who
yeah.
have dementia." I couldn't imagine, 'cause they don't know what's going on before they drop them down in there. Um,
So would
that
you
would
go in
be
the
a
dungeon with
nightmare.
all of the old people from your facility if
I
this were to happen? Or would you leave them outside and you go in the dungeon by yourself?
I don't know what, like, the ethical choice would be, because they made a choice, but it's like they get inside the game and
Their
it's
own,
horrible.
yeah. Like they can't
I
even
don't think there's
survive.
a right choice
No.
to be made there.
Well, because like you can even see like Carl has that moral dilemma the whole time too, because there's like the group of people that stay in one of the safe rooms whenever the first floor collapses, and Carl's like that is like the most humane way you could go in this game because all it is going to be suffering from then on out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, there's some really good, like, heartfelt spots, and, like, at this point and I think another part that I really like about this is that as Carl is progressing, his intelligence is going up because he's getting all of these
He's
perks.
gaining
His
stat
character
points.
is becoming less insufferable and, like, meathead man.
Yeah.
I just exited the military type dude. Like,
I
he's
think
becoming so likable.
I thought he was likable from the beginning because he was always very funny. Like his internal monologue is very funny, and it feels very realistic because it's like in one of these situations you always think that like, oh, like if I were to be in like a life or death situation, I'd lock in and be like, let's fucking go sort of thing. And he's like, this fucking blows. And that's what he does the whole time. And it's like, yeah, it kind of does fucking blow. I can only imagine.
I think, like and it's interesting to see how the game as you're progressing through this is treating people who are better off than Carl. Say there was like an army from a country in Africa, I can't remember which one,
Yeah.
but they were armed,
I
like they
think
were
he just
outside
said
of the game.
Africa, like an African country,
Yeah.
because I don't think he knew
It was
either.
a nondescript from what I remember, because I
Yeah.
didn't highlight anything about it, but there was like hundreds of them, and
Yeah.
they all had it, and then they happened to run in to like this crazy city
City
boss
boss.
and
Yeah.
only one of them ended up surviving. And I think you're seeing this is my theory at the very end of this book that I was having is there is things that are happening where it almost feels like the game makers had watched different people on the surface and kind of
No.
forced them
Yeah.
or guided them, into this situation because the people who are getting because like everyone loves like a rags to riches type
Yeah.
of
Story.
story.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that kind of play out because you're getting like the Lucia, you're getting the Valkyrie lady, like the girl
Mhm.
power, they're all like
Yeah.
coming together. And there's a couple other ones that you're learning about.
Very
I think in
minimally through the TV show that plays every couple nights or whatever.
which, in accordance with, like, this, ultra-nationalist, like, political party that's in power, which is being described which I think it's the Bloom Party, right, that's in power. I had it highlighted. I think they're either really relevant in the governing of, like, the syndicate or they are the power and party. Like, they definitely hold a lot of power, but they're called the Bloom Party, they're described by Nev. That's her name.
Yes.
The closest thing you have in your history is maybe Axis Japan with a splash of Nazi Germany thrown in, but it's not quite right. So it's interesting to see like this
I don't think
fascist.
they're in power. I think that's the part of the party that the guy that hosts the Glorp Glorp TV show, the Prince guy. I don't remember what his name is. You know
But they
that.
are like a huge.
Yes, they are like an impactful political party, but I don't think
Yeah.
they're working with
I
the
don't.
syndicate
That's what I was trying
strictly.
to figure out exactly what the syndicate was because it's kind of made out to be like a republic, but in the same way like the United States has like checks and balances, but we know also that the United States is
Yeah.
a unanimously, like, right-wing, entity. It's just different flavors of that, so I'm just that's where my perspective is, like, I feel like this has a lot more leverage. if it is being described the way it is, and they have like pull in politics, it'll be interesting to see how that all ends up like unfolding later. And I also thought it was interesting how they talked about this is all that I highlighted about the Borant like company and how they will let you like do whatever you want as long as you're not talking shit about like the syndicate or Borant or one of the other things. They'll like watch you, but as long
Mhm.
as it's profitable, they don't care what you do. Which was another really good thing. It's like, how are people missing this? These are being explicitly stated to you, and it makes me worried about
How
the
people are
state.
not. Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, because, like, the idea that, like, Republicans don't view, like, the current government and power and stuff like that as, like, an ultra fascist idea, like, I don't know. What do they think fascism is my question. Because since we continue to have the illusion of free will and stuff on TV and books that you can read or whatever, like, because it's not so in your face, they don't view it as fascism, or because it's not affecting them, they don't view it as fascism. Because I'm sure, like, people that lived in Nazi Germany, I'm sure there was plenty of people there that were like living there that were like, well, this is just the way the world is, and it's
It
the passiveness that continues to feed these fires.
it's been decades and decades of very effective like social control and propaganda that we've
Mhm.
all been subjected to. But it's interesting, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, right, and what I've read, how other people are not getting that type of worldview. But I guess if you live in other like smaller towns and like these red states, like the news is probably highly biased and leaning one direction.
Yeah.
um so you're always getting like this really specific narrative being pushed to you. So if you're not actively locked in online all the time, you're not going to be seeing any of this. So maybe
No,
that
because I think
that's
that's what
got to
it
be part of
is.
it.
I think that does have to do with it too, because especially the way that the United States and the military portrays, like, other opposing governments and opposing ideologies too, is very much similar to how, like, the syndicate probably portrays, you know, like, the crawlers and stuff like that, because you see, like, the way that people are. It's really interesting to me that, like, because I feel like the problem with the Hunger Games and stuff where, like, I can almost see where Republicans are coming from for that, because it's not so clearly stated that, like, oh, like, capitalism specifically and, like, worker exploitation and all of that stuff, versus this is very much like exploitation specifically of, like, Carl and Princess Donut is so clearly used to make this company money, and Carl and Princess Donut being actively, well, like, obviously not like actively against it as much as they can be with this uh like surveillance that they're under. But the fact that they're, like, reading this and be like, "Ha, ha, ha," like, "This is making fun of communism," like, I don't get that. Like,
It's
I really
really
don't.
interesting. They I don't know if it's because there's so much reference to corporations, which I don't know, because they are like against like corporatism. They don't want a monopoly, right? For the most part, they don't want. This is from what I've heard
Generalization.
from the people around me. The generalization from Yee County, Oregon. But they like small businesses, right? So anything like a corporation that's consolidating an industry where like the little guy can't get a little bit of a step up, that's bad.
Mhm.
Right? Because they view, like, big government bad. They want small government. They're not against, like, governing. They're like, "No, we just need to, like, govern ourselves." So, like,
But I don't
they have
under
a lot of, like, characteristics that we can, like, have conversation and dialogue and meet people where they're at in that regard. But then it just, like, takes a really sharp right turn, because then it just falls back into bigotry. Because
well,
they're like,
because yeah.
actually, it's the immigrants that are stealing all our jobs," or something fucking crazy.
Well, it's
And I
like,
wonder in this world if there's something similar.
because they have no, like, the thing is with, like, Republicans and, like, people like that, they're like, "Oh, I don't want big government," but then you're gonna support Trump that continues pressing, like, things to make, like, the federal government stronger and things like that, and even, like, so I'm like, I just the consistency of their ideology is, like, not there, because they're not, like, I don't understand, like, I just don't understand how they don't see the contradictions themselves. And I think that's, like, what's frustrating is because, like, whenever you read stuff like this, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna get it if you're gonna keep, like, if you have the same framework of viewing, like, Trump as, like, helping out the little guy or whatever he does, tax cuts for the rich or whatever, you know?
It doesn't make because he's so much like Ronald Reagan. Like, there's so many. I know people like say like liberal. They're not wrong. They act the same way. Like, they care about like the trickle down, right? They're like, we're trying
Yeah.
to get it down to you guys, like the little guys, and they pay a lot of lip service, and they do it.
Mhm.
Donald Trump is a very like charismatic individual, and he's entertaining, and I think they like that. That he just talks. He doesn't talk like a
A
bureaucrat. Like, he's
politician?
not using crazy, over like flourished language. He's talking to them like they're like normal people, which is good. Like,
Yeah.
you should talk to people and not speak over, especially like know your demographic.
Mhm.
Um, because I think people could feel insulted because their intelligence isn't like they don't get it, which
If
I
they
think a
don't,
lot of like liberals end up doing. Um,
yeah, if you use
but
big
I think that's
corporate
the
jargon.
allure. Is he just sounds because I don't know if Donald Trump is just not dumb or if he plays a really good part. Um,
Well, because, like, the
but
idea is too that, like, Donald Trump was, like, his whole thing, he was talking about tariffs and stuff like that, right? And, like, me and you being educated before, like, Trump was president, we knew, like, what tariffs were because we learned about them in school, like, where it's, like, an additional tax on goods and services that inevitably get passed down to the consumer because they're originally on the business that's importing the item. And businesses, they want to make more money. So guess what? They're not paying that extra tax. You are. So everything is going to go up like then. And people didn't realize that until now they're actually seeing their prices go up. But then they were told last week that their prices were going to go down, but we know that was inevitably not true. And so these people are learning that, but then it's almost like they still don't care.
I almost wonder if they are conflating like sanctions. That's the whole thing. I was like, I thought that's what they were trying to do with sanctions, and people were just saying the word tariff, and I was like, that doesn't really make any sense to me. But I wonder if that's what they were thinking. It's like, oh, we're gonna put all these sanctions on them because those are like what end up
Yeah,
hurting,
that's
right?
that actual country where they're blocking trade and things like that. But the tariffs don't really have effects on other countries, which I don't know, because I don't even understand how that's beneficial to big businesses either, to be honest. Like, I'm no
I don't think it is
economist.
because he's been like backtracking on some things. So
Yeah,
I don't. It's obviously it's not working in the ways that he was saying it, but it is.
but he
I
has to
don't
have
know. It's
some
having
type of
some real world
economist.
effects right now. It's crazy. Like, everything is gonna go up really high. When I went to Costco, there was no Kirkland water. That's kind of crazy, and I don't
Yeah,
know where they source it from. So,
you think it'd be here, or
but it's not because we don't make anything here,
yeah.
and that's because of imperialism. So I don't know. We went
Well,
on a little
because
bit of a tangent. I
yeah,
don't know
well,
how we're gonna
yeah,
tie this back into Carl,
and to
but I
Carl.
think
So Donald
I just am
Trump
very
is
confused.
the syndicate, and um,
No, he's a glug glug.
yeah, glorp glorp.
Glorp glorp.
um, I don't know. It's just really interesting because from what I can tell, like reading this first book, I could tell too. Like I was reading it, I was like, "There's going to be a revolution." I could feel the revolutionary nature in Carl's head. I can sense it. I could feel it.
I feel like we can get into our predictions, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're wrapping it up, getting our predictions. I think Odette is playing the long game.
Yeah, she's almost giving like Plutarch, if you've read the Hunger Games sort of vibe is kind of what I was getting. Like or like if you watch Andor, Lutheran sort of vibes. Sorry, I'm on my Andor grind. You should watch Andor, you'd love it. It's fire. Almost like, because it's really interesting too that so many people that are working the dungeons and stuff like that were originally crawlers. Like Odette was originally a crawler. Mordecai originally a crawler. These people were originally crawlers, and so I know, and they have to continue working it every single year, every single season. And I can't imagine you continue watching this happen. You build relationships, and you just watch them die every time, you know? And so, of course, these people are going to be tired of it. Like, you can only see so much hardship and horrid in your life until you're wanting to fight back against it, which I think is what's happened to Odette and Mordecai. We don't know too much about within this because he's sort of a like just the guild master in this first book. So you're kind of you don't
He's
know
widowy Hamish.
you don't know too much about him because you just know that Odette was like her like he Mordecai was the crawler under Odette whenever she was a guild master sort of thing. Because then she got promoted to having her own TV show. Because I guess she was like bought out by another corporation, basically. Because I don't think she works for the Syndicate. Her show is. I
I
think
don't
it's under
know. It's
something else.
confusing because I know, like,
There's
they
so
also
much too.
they mine and pick worlds for the
Mhm.
show, but sometimes they will offer, like, they take people instead of, like, mining the world. So, like, it seems like the people that are being, because there's, like, the NPCs and there's, like, the robotic
Yeah.
NPCs, right?
And
Because some
some of
people are
those
not
are
like
like
it.
humans that existed on Earth, like after all the buildings collapsed or whatever. Then they like
Yeah,
took
or,
them.
like, a previous Earths. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what's gonna end up happening. Um, Obviously, I know a little bit about the second book, but I don't know what the long game of this series is gonna look like, and I hope positively.
I have positive hopes as well. Even though I don't imagine this is going to be like the Marxist Leninist revolution of our dreams. You know what I'm saying? That like we so desperately look for in all media that we want. But if it's some type of organized revolution that takes down the syndicate, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
especially if
so
it
far I have no complaints, like,
continues
politically.
to be overt about its themes and stuff like that, which is like I would love. I didn't really look at the reviews though, but I didn't really see any Republicans, and I haven't seen like anybody right wing talk about this personally. So you'll have to send me those thoughts or whatever, because I would love to talk to a Republican about this and see like, so like, what are you getting out of this?
Yes, I'm sure as time progresses and the further we get into this series, we'll be able to research a little bit more because I did find, like, one academic article, but I didn't want to read it because I didn't know if it was just like a holistic like view at Dungeon Crawler Carl the series or if it was just about this book.
Yeah,
But it was like a Marxist analysis of like the class and like social relations in this, but I didn't want to spoil anything. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But I will later. Before we get to the eighth book, I will be reading everything I can. The
yeah,
eighth book, that episode is gonna eat.
yeah. Whenever that comes out, so that's the end of the year. So you guys have all year to look forward to that. Um, I don't know if there's. I know we're gonna have to deal with Frank and Maggie again at some point in the future too. The I don't know.
Ice agents.
Yeah, the ICE agents, the cops of some sort that killed their own daughter. They're kind of crazy. I don't really know what even to think of them because, like, I always think it's so refreshing too. Is like because obviously, like, whoever they are, like sort of thing. Like we don't know their story or whatever, but like you can see Carl's always expressing sympathy for them too. You know, like even though like he kind of fucking hates them and he's like, you know, it'd be better off for me if they just happen to die, sort of thing, which I don't think they will. I feel like they're gonna be too relevant to the plot in some type of way later on. Um but I think it's really interesting too how he's like, it's not really their fault entirely. It is a lot of what this game is putting people through that makes them ruthless and cutthroat the way that they are. Where I can really appreciate that, where it's somebody that's actually expressing sympathy for the other crawlers, even though they're kind of evil. Whatever you would say. I don't know what you would say about them. Besides, I mean, they're
I
ICE
think
agents, so
it'll be relevant to the game because I think it's gonna be like that enemy plot because they were eating it up. Like, oh, this is like the bad guys. I think the game will carry them along, at least the woman. I don't
yeah.
think the man is gonna make it.
Well, because it was really interesting too, because there's like the whole like right wing group. Because I don't remember what the guy's name is, the Prince guy that has the show where they go glorp glorp sort of thing. Glorp glorp. It's so funny the voices that are done in the book too for it. It's so funny. But because I feel like that is also going to end up being more relevant too, because they made like the fake porno of Carl and that guy, the prince.
They're the ones of Skull Empire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Like, he's like a prince and, like, he's got an older brother
Yeah.
or something, and then, like,
But we
they're
won't find out
dead.
until, what, the ninth level? And we throughout this book, we only get through the first 2, so
Yes.
I don't know where that's gonna end up being.
Yeah, because he's gonna like, Princess Donut and Carl are gonna have to fight the family and kill them or whatever, because she's the rightful queen, which that book's not even out yet, I guess, because I guess that'll be book 8, though. Huh?
Gotta be, right?
If it, because I know right now Mariah's prediction, I was originally thinking that, like, the first book was gonna be the first floor and the second book was gonna be the second floor, which I think the way that this is laid out, since it's almost like the first 2 levels are more tutorial, it works for just it being the first book, but I think from now on, like, the third book will only be level 3, right?
I agree.
That's what I'm thinking anyways, because where I'm at, like, 50 something percent, and I think there's still, like, 5 days till the level collapses.
I feel like the last bit, though, they might end up splitting because they said that you get a lot more time towards the end.
Yeah, because they were supposed to be getting longer, but I guess I can't say anything. Well, I guess in this one too, the second floor, they don't have those open for as long as they typically do, because the idea is too that they mentioned in this first book that the warrant system or whatever, they're running out of money. This is like their last ditch effort to be a relevant corporation, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna find out what they end up doing to try to rack in that dough.
Which, I mean, apparently, I'm sure Carl and Princess Donut are making them their money, because they're pretty popular peeps.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm scared,
I'm scared.
but
I'm nervous
excited.
every day. As long as Princess Donut lives to see level 18, that's all that matters to me.
Rooting for her.
um, we didn't talk about Mongo. Love him. He's not really relevant in this. They kind of get
Yeah. He was
him at
very,
the
like,
end.
last minute addition, so
Yeah. But I guess, do we really have anything else to talk about for this episode?
I think that's it. I think some of the other stuff I have highlighted will probably be better served later on down the road.
Yeah, we can talk about it more in the other. Because the thing is that, like, because this is like, it's such an expansive world. Like, there's so many corporations because they've been doing this. Do we even know what season this is? Like, the number?
I don't I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but I know it's like, it's been years and years and years and years. Like, I feel, I don't know. There's so many thoughts, so many feelings.
If anyone else has read this first book, I'm very curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
This is not me just trying to get you to engage, but it also is because I am very curious. So if you listen to this, um, leave a comment or DM us because I need more people.
Yeah.
I need a chat. I need a running chat to discuss this with.
It'll be like, what's the party called? It's like Princess Donut's Royal Court. You need to make that the
Yes.
group chat name.
For
Whatever.
the full send, go full like twihard groupie
Yeah.
over Dungeon Crawler Carl.
The only thing, like, I'm excited for the show just because I want actual Dungeon Crawler Carl merch. Like, sorry, still consumerism of me, yeah, but I want
You could
Princess
DIY
Donut.
some.
What the hell is there to make?
What do you mean? You just need a white pair of boxers and like a leather jacket. No
Yeah, we
shoes.
dress up. Yeah, no shoes, toe ring.
Toe ring, and a gauntlet.
But the gauntlet only comes whenever he closes his fist. He
That's
doesn't
all
have
you
it on
need.
all the time. But the boxers have hearts on them. The big boy undies. And I think I love the achievements. That's one of my favorite things about this, because there's so much like little tidbits sprinkled in there that I think is really cute and fun and funky and fresh. But other than that, I feel like that's probably all we have to say, right?
Yeah, for right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Check
I'm
out.
falling asleep.
Yeah. We're going to be doing hopefully one of these every month. Planning on. Because I don't know about Mariah, but I feel like we're gonna read all of these super fast and then just like back film all of these, because I don't even want to read anything else. Like, this is the only series I want to have in my hands at all time.
We're locked
And
in.
they get so long too. We were looking at the bookstore today. The fifth one, because they only have Tribe published up to book 5. And it's like 700 pages long.
This is one of the only series where I'm like, yep, more is more.
Yeah, keep making them long. I mean, I love a long book anyways. Give me that 500-page book. But yeah, I guess if that's it, thanks for listening. I don't know when this is getting posted. I think after My Dark Vanessa, but before Blood Over Brighthaven. So make
Yeah.
sure to check out next week's episode, which will be Blood Over Brighthaven, which we are reading with our book club right now. So you can join the book club, Lit Pod on Fable, to talk about that with us.
Or if you don't catch that one, we'll be voting soon on our
June book.
June read.
Yep.
Which we have some good ones picked out.
Yep. Yes, we do. All right. Other than that, thank you and good night.